Any views or opinions expressed on KUR are not necessarily those of Kutztown University, Kutztown University Student Government, Kutztown University Student Services Incorporated, KUR staff and management, or other affiliated organizations.
We'll do it live!
The American dream is dead. But if I get elected president, I will bring it back bigger and better and stronger than ever before, and we will make America great again.
This election is about ending the grotesque level of income and wealth inequality in America today.
Out of many we are one, that while we breathe, we hope, and where we are met with cynicism and doubt, and those who tell us that we can't, we will respond with that timeless creed that sums up the spirit of a people. Yes, we can. Thank you. God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America.
And good evening, and welcome to the Filibuster here on the radio voice of Kutztown University, KUR, KUR's liberal-minded political talk show each and every week at this time here on the radio. I am your host tonight, Mike Regs. I'm sitting in tonight for Justin Schweitzer. Yeah, you're probably wondering, Mike Regs, this is not your show. You're right, it is not my show. Justin Schweitzer is out sick this week, so we wish him get well wishes and hope that he feels much, much better next week. Lots of things going around with this crazy weather, so lots of colds and stuff like that. So try to stay healthy out there, folks, and get well wishes to our normal host, Justin. I was asked by our program director, Beatty Blake, to sit in tonight since, I am the advisor of the radio station and also the manager, but I'm also a self-proclaimed news junkie and political enthusiast. Don't claim to be an expert in either of those two things, but I love those two things. And Beatty came to me and said, this is a important show because it's the show after Election Day. But our host is sick, so would you mind filling in? And I said, absolutely, I'd love to fill in. So it might be a little more abbreviated than usual, this particular show, but we'll see how that goes. And I also have a couple of special guests coming up in the show, and this is going to be really interesting because a couple of KU's alum, one of which was also a KUR former member, both won seats in local races yesterday. So a huge congratulations to Nicholas Imbesi, who won a seat on the West Reading Borough Council. West Reading, a nice town about 25 minutes southwest of Kutztown and just west of Reading. Nick Imbesi is the former SGB president here at Kutztown University a number of years back. And Jason Ruff, former member of KUR about 10 years ago, host of Makin' Waves here on KUR, if you remember that show, won a seat on Slatington's council. Slatington, a cute little town in far northern Lehigh County, bordering Carbon County, about 45 minutes northeast of Kutztown. So congratulations to both Nick and Jason. We're going to be talking to them both this hour and finding out what their political aspirations are and how maybe KU helped set the groundwork for where they are today. But first, I want to recap yesterday's election. Of course, yesterday was a general election here in the United States. And it wasn't a huge election. Of course, we're all still exhausted from last year's election, which seemed to go on for years and still seems to be going on a year later as pundits are still talking about it a year later and probably will for many years to come. Next year is going to be a huge election, both statewide here in Pennsylvania and also nationally. Statewide, we're going to have a gubernatorial election next year, so Tom Wolf will be the incumbent governor against whoever the Republicans put up there and whoever the independents and Green parties and libertarians put up there. And nationally, it'll be a huge election next year because it's the famous midterms, where it'll be halfway through the Trump administration and all the big seats federally come up, and it kind of is a signification of how the country is accepting the current administration. Everybody always looks at the actual election for president and then the midterms a couple of years later. So of course the Democrats are seeing next year as a huge opportunity to take back the country and turn things blue again and kind of make Trump's pathway more difficult for his next couple of years after that. The Republicans are looking at hoping for big wins next year, because then that would give them a thumbs up that, the American people agree with what we're doing. So both sides, of course, next year is going to be absolutely huge, both nationally and statewide here in Pennsylvania. But here, yesterday, it was a smaller day here in Pennsylvania, but not too far away. Some nearby states of New Jersey and Virginia, they had gubernatorial elections yesterday, and they were the only two states that had gubernatorial elections at yesterday's particular cycle, and they were both big wins for the blue, for the Democrats. So is this an early sign of what the country is thinking over the past year and where the country might go next year at the midterms? I don't know. I mean, that's for the pundits and the political experts to examine, but I will say that Trump and his administration and the Republicans were hoping for red wins in both of these states, especially in Virginia, but both states went blue. Democrats sweeping Virginia and New Jersey's governor races. Got some articles here from the Associated Press. Voters in Virginia and New Jersey gave Democratic gubernatorial candidates large victories Tuesday and sent a clear message of rebuke to President Donald Trump, says the Associated Press. Virginia's hard-fought contest was Lieutenant Governor Ralph Northam defeating Republican Ed Gillespie, and in New Jersey, front-running Democrat Phil Murphy trounced the Republican Lieutenant Governor candidate to succeed the highly unpopular GOP Governor Chris Christie. The AP says the victories signified, and the people who actually, the candidates who won, said that the wins had far-reaching repercussions in a sharply divided country. Similarly, the Associated Press in another article says that seizing his party's first major Trump-era victory, Democrat Ralph Northam beat back a charge from Republican Ed Gillespie in the race for Virginia governor. A bruising election that tested the power of President Donald Trump's fiery nationalism against the energy of the Trump resistance. And in Virginia, as several contests across America on Tuesday, the Trump resistance won, and it wasn't even close. So I'm not sure I'm seeing them use the word landslide in either of these two races, but if you look at the numbers, it was some pretty resounding wins for Democrats in both Virginia and New Jersey. And what does that mean? Who really knows? But I will say that for a state, especially Virginia, that has kind of, always kind of been on the border. Some years it's leaned red, some years it's leaned blue, but in recent times has been leaning red. For it to so sharply turn blue, that kind of says something. That might kind of say something. New Jersey's always been a kind of a tough gauge, because Jersey, at least as I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, I had a very politically minded family that was always talking about this stuff. I always knew Jersey as a liberal state, a very blue state, a working man state, blue, New Jersey. However, Chris Christie and kind of changed that. I mean, he came in there a very red-leaning governor. I mean, sides of him were could be deemed as moderate, and maybe that's what helped him win in New Jersey. But generally, a very red-leaning governor won 2 terms in New Jersey. So was that of course the Republicans said, "Oh, that's a sign of the new direction that New Jersey is taking. We're making it a red state." Well. New Jersey's Christie's first term might have been successful, but his second one, he had some of the lowest approval ratings of any governor in the country. So that state went back to blue as well too. So we'll see. Where does it go? We don't know where it goes, but definitely some resounding wins for Democrats. And also I should mention locally, Berks County area, just north of here in Schuylkill County, which is actually my home county, a very, very, very red county, extremely red county, yet a hugely, bitterly contested and fought race for Schuylkill County DA actually went blue as well to Mike Opaque. So, again, very, very interesting to see some very red areas turning blue. Is that a sign of the country not very happy with the direction we've been going for the past year? I will let you decide. But let us now decide what what to think about the fact that KU has two alum that have, at least two, and I'm sure there's many others out there as well, who won victories yesterday. But we were able to garner two former KU alum to speak to us on the air about their wins yesterday locally. And we're very, very proud of Jason Ruff and Nicholas Imbesi. We've got Nicholas Imbesi, our first guest on the phone right now. Nick won a seat on West Reading Borough Council. We'll get to Nick on the phone right after we take a short break here on a special edition of the Filibuster.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
Two years ago, in June 2015, NASA's New Horizons spacecraft discovered that Charon had two poles, both with a reddish color. This is Kayla Bryce. The scientists were kept busy with questions as to why Charon's poles were red. They even thought that the reddish color was caused by the leftover solid organic compounds formed from reactions of gases catalyzed by arriving solar energy and charged atoms. This basically means that scientists had guessed that the gases at Charon's poles were being changed by the solar energy from the sun and leftover compounds that were what created the red poles on Charon. That was the theory until they found that Charon did not have gas, but Pluto did. A new theory was hypothesized by Will Grundy, a Lowell Observatory researcher. Is it possible that Charon was being painted by Pluto through methane gas? Indeed, after Grundy had developed and created some tests, it was discovered that methane was the most probable cause of the red poles. However, the question remained, is Charon cold enough to freeze methane? They discovered that at the poles of Charon, there are 100 years of light followed by 100 years of darkness. During these years of darkness, the temperature could reach negative 257 degrees Celsius, which is cold enough to freeze methane. But this would bring up another problem. When the sun arrives at Charon, wouldn't all that methane just go away, returning Charon to its original color? And how does methane give off the reddish color? Scientists discovered that the methane melts away during the spring of Charon, but while the methane ice rapidly sublimates away, the denser hydrocarbons, which are just basically natural compounds such as methane and propane, formed from this evaporative process stay on the surface. The sunlight then further irradiates these leftover hydrocarbons by creating tholins, which are a class of molecule formed by solar radiation of methane or ethane, which are what give Charon its red coloring. I hope this gave you a little more insight on Pluto's moon and maybe even some insight on the properties of Pluto.
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more Telescopic Topics. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by the KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, we're on the phone right now with former Kutztown University SGB president Nicholas Imbesi, who past few years has gone on to do some wonderful things, and just yesterday won a local seat down in West Reading. Welcome, Nick Imbesi, to the show.
Hey, thanks a lot, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Okay, what year did you graduate from KU? I can't. It starts to all fuzz into my mind after a while.
Yeah, it does for me too.
Yeah.
I graduated in May of 2014.
May of 2014, and your final year, you were SGB president here, correct?
I was. That's correct. Yes.
All right.
Best years of my life.
Right. Now, what was your major? Was it political science?
Public administration.
Public administration. Okay. Mm-hmm. And since then, you've been living the dream in the world of public administration. Tell us what you've been doing the past couple of years.
Well, I currently have been working for almost, it's going to be 3 years now this January.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a deputy in the Recorder of Deeds office of Berks County for Frederick Sheeler. So
Okay.
I'm one of his right-hand people. And then I was appointed in February of this year to fill a vacancy at the Borough Council for West Reading. Now, state law is once you are appointed to fill a vacancy, you must be elected at the next election cycle no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
So my term has 2 years to it. The seat that I was filling has 2 years to it left. So I ran for the 2-year term in this last election. So that's so, and I am very grateful for the residents of West Reading because they elected me overwhelmingly to the seat.
That's wonderful. Yeah, I saw some of the numbers yesterday, and they were quite impressive. Tell us a little bit about the whole feeling of getting into local politics like that. Was it a lot involved in doing that? Was there some challenges that you had?
Well, I think it depends on what local government position you're running for and what town or borough you're doing it. Since West Reading is an up-and-coming borough, we have a lot of development going on in the borough. We have a lot of revitalization going on in the borough. We have a very successful Main Street program, and we have a booming business district in the borough. So people really want to sit at the table because you can really make a name for yourself. So it was very competitive running for this election, and honestly, it got outright dirty. Now, I refuse to do any negative campaigning, but there was court cases filed against people on the ballot.
Wow.
I had the DA's office call me for just a minor infraction that took place back at the primary. Something that we corrected on the spot, and people kept pursuing it. Opponents kept pursuing it until the DA's office had to call me.
Wow.
So it was outright nasty. But I did mailers. I knocked on hundreds of doors. I talked to the business leaders and business owners in the borough. I just went out there and I brought a positive message of, these are our neighbors that we're running against. So when all this election's over, we still have to live next door to each other,
Mm-hmm.
So we should all be a lot more civil with each other. And that was just my general message when people would bring up the dirt that was being flung around all over the place.
Yeah, that's kind of mind-boggling if you think about it, that, such a local election can get that dirty. You can only imagine then how bad things get on the state and federal level. So.
Yeah, it is. I honestly think this is a result of what is happening at the state and federal level.
Interesting.
Boiling down to the local level, which is actually quite a shame.
Interesting.
Because even at the local level, political party really doesn't matter that much.
Right.
I had quite a few Republicans, and by the way, for people listening, I am a Democrat.
Mm-hmm.
I had quite a few Republicans tell me I was the first Democratic yard sign they ever had on their front lawn.
That's awesome.
Because in these local elections, politics, the political party doesn't matter all that much. Because really we're doing what's best for the town, for the borough.
Right.
So it isn't something that should be so politicized, but it is.
So West Reading is a great little town. It's about a half hour southwest of Kutztown. So tell us a little bit about some of what you ran on down there, and you said about your positive message. What was your positive message for West Reading?
Well, the positive message was we have a booming town.
Mm-hmm.
We look at the town that was 10, 15, 20 years ago to what it is today. We have made some significant progress, and I really want to keep the borough on that path. We have some major development taking place in the borough, and we need to have people sitting at the table that know how to make sure all of this is orchestrated in the correct manner. And I believe that I have what it takes, and I believe my running mates that I was running with have what it takes. We have a parking problem, and the parking problem is because of the success that we've had in our business district. We need to solve that once and for all. We need to create more of a community that's unified, and this election is a perfect example of just the wounds that we need to sew back up, and we really need to have a community that's unified because we're only going to be able to move together to make West Reading better. It's not only a few of us. We all have to move together to get it done.
Right.
The borough itself, it has about 4,300 people in it. Once we have two major developments taking place. Currently, the VF outlet, some of that development is in our borough, and we have a development called the Narrow Fabric site. Used to be old knitting mills. They are being turned into luxury apartments. So our population could increase by 100, 200 people once those apartments are up and running. So it's really exciting. And the Reading Hospital, which is now Tower Health, is in our borough, the largest employer in Berks County, and so there's a lot of exciting things going on in the borough, and I'm really excited to be a part of it.
Well, that's absolutely fantastic. So your term is what, for 2 years, 4 years? How does that?
It's for 2 years.
2 years?
For 2 years.
Okay.
I ran for the 2-year term. Yeah.
Do you see yourself moving up anywhere? Are we going to see a mayor Imbesi sometime soon? Or
Well, honestly, a lot of people are asking that question about the mayor, and
right.
Actually, West Reading has a strong council, weak mayor system. So if you really want to get something done,
okay,
you really want to make a change, you want to be at the council table as a council person and not as the mayor. Now, the mayor oversees our police department, and of course, it's like the figurehead of the borough.
Right.
But it's the same setup as what Kutztown is as well. It's
right.
a strong council, weak mayor system. So I would never really have any aspirations to be the mayor, because if I want to get things done, your best bet is to be a council person who has voting power.
That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. And what would you say some of the? I mean, you mentioned some of the big issues in West Reading and parking, and Reading, or now Tower Health being within the borough limits. What are some of your other longer term goals for West Reading, or for your own political aspirations, so to speak?
Well, sure. I'll take that as a two-part question.
Sure.
For your first part, I would really like to see commerce expanded in the borough even further.
Okay.
We have our borough is about 1 square mile. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And so our tax base is limited, and as police cost rises, as fire department cost rises, as public works and pension programs rises, we really don't want to tax out our residents. And West Reading does have one of the highest tax rates in the county.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at what our tax rate is offering, it's actually, you're getting a good bang for your buck for the taxes you're paying to the borough. But I really want to expand our business section. So I really like, right now we have Penn Avenue, and then on the one side we have Cherry Street, and the other side we have Reading Avenue. And I would really like to make them into a commercial mixed residential area, so we could expand some commerce. I would really like to make Cherry Street into something really cool, where a lot of cities and towns are experimenting with walking fairs or outdoor walking and shopping and things like that. And I would really like to look into what we could do with Cherry Street, because I think it would be perfect for it. So I really want to expand commerce, because we are one of the municipalities that have the business privilege tax. Now, municipalities can't put that in place now anymore, but you are grandfathered in, and West Reading is grandfathered in. So we do have the business privilege tax. So I really want to expand commerce so we can try to alleviate some of the taxes on our residents. To answer your second question,
right.
I do have goals. It's no secret that I am homosexual, and I really, truly would like to be the first gay governor of Pennsylvania. I think that would be something that is a goal in my life. Just to say and just to show that everyone is equal in the United States of America, no matter what some bigoted people might say. So that is my total aspiration. Will we get there? I don't know. Maybe someone might beat me out to it, but it is my goal. So
that's fantastic.
I'm going to work hard at doing that, but I don't want people to think that I'm just using people as stepping stones. Any position I have or any job I have, I will hold with integrity and honesty, and I will do the best I can while I'm in that position.
That's fantastic. Nicholas Imbesi, I want to thank you so much. I know you're a busy man, so I'm going to let you get back and to your busy day and get some free time in there for your lunch before you got to go back to work. But congratulations once again, winning last night's seat on the West Reading Borough Council. I know it's going to be a great couple of years ahead for the town of West Reading and for you.
Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate it. It's good talking to you.
Good talking to you, too. Have a great day, okay?
You too. Thank
All
you.
right,
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. We'll hear from our next guest, another KU alum, winner of a local election, Jason Ruff, coming up right after this on a special edition of the Filibuster.
It's Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us.
Solar storms are no ordinary storms. Hi, my name is Sean Rabidold. Today we'll be looking at solar storms and their effects on Earth. So what is a solar storm? A solar storm is an enormous burst of energy emitted from our sun. This burst of energy causes electrical charges and magnetic fields to be launched away from the sun towards our Earth. These electrical charges sent through space can affect the Earth in a major way. Large impacts can cause blackouts by destroying transformers, leaving communities without power. What causes solar storms? The sun goes through cycles of increased and decreased activity, causing fierce winds to stir up on the surface of the sun, thus creating solar flares. The largest solar storm on record hit in 1859. However, the most impactful one, only a third of the size, hit Quebec in 1989. The storm had a large impact because of the increased use of technology and number of transformers used in the world today. This storm left over 6 million people without power. According to a report from the National Research Council, a megastorm as large as the one in 1859 would cause $1 to $2 trillion in damage. It would leave millions of people without power, clean water, and other necessities. According to Pete Riley, a space physicist at Predictive Science in San Diego, California, said a storm of such magnitude has around a 12% chance to occur within the next decade.
Telescopic Topics, a look into the world above us. Stay tuned to KUR for more Telescopic Topics. Telescopic Topics is a production of the KU Physical Sciences Department and is recorded by the KU astronomy students in the studios of KUR. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, and now it's time for our second guest of the show. We've got former KUR member and show host Jason Ruff on the air. He hosted a great show a number of years back on KUR called Making Waves, and he just made some waves up in northern Lehigh County, where he won election to Slatington Borough Council. A few minutes ago, we talked to Nick Imbesi, who won West Reading Borough Council. We have another KU alum that's doing great things in the world of politics. Jason, congratulations on winning up there in Slatington.
Thank you, Mike. I really appreciate it.
So, you hosted a show here a number of years ago on KUR. Really didn't discuss politics too much, except when it had to deal with whatever topic you were discussing that particular day. But what really it prompted you to say, this is something that I want to do? I want to get into local town politics.
When I think about politics, sometimes it's a little overwhelming, and it's certainly a charged topic. But, the difference for people really is made, I believe anyway, it begins at the local level. Mm-hmm. So, you're able to really, as a local politician, you're able to really make a difference in your community and for the citizens of a municipality.
Right. So you wound up in Slatington. I know you have you own a diner up there, which is fantastic. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I bought the building and opened the restaurant. It's almost 3 years now, and things are going well. Uh-huh. Community has certainly responded in a positive way to such a positively charged business as what we've created. Mm-hmm. So it's, I can't thank the community enough for the support that we've received.
So what prompted you to get on the ballot and try to run for a council seat? Was it just your love of the community, or what? Did you have particular issues that you wanted to address in Slatington? Would paint us the path of how you wound up where you are now?
Yeah, actually, I was sought out by some community leaders. Okay. And I believe that I was sought out because of the positive mission and positive vision that we were trying to create with the business, with the diner. Mm-hmm. There were community leaders that really saw me out there trying to make a difference in Slatington. Slatington has some. They definitely have some goals to meet as far as local revitalization, and I had started working and partnering with the Chamber of Commerce in our area.
Mm-hmm.
And so there were local leaders that really did see that I was already taking steps towards making a difference in my community. So they sought me out and asked me to apply for an appointment.
Mm-hmm.
So I have been a member of Borough Council since April of earlier this year.
Okay.
And so that appointment is only good until the next municipal election.
Right.
And so I have enjoyed it so much, and I really do feel like I've made a difference already in just a couple of months that I've been on.
Mm-hmm.
That it only seemed, like a logical thing to do, to run again for the seat that I currently have.
Right.
So I needed to run and I needed to win, and I partnered with some other people in the community to run for some of the other open seats. So we ran as a team, and we were very successful.
Well, congratulations. That's absolutely fantastic. So, for any folks not familiar too much with Slatington issues or politics, it's in far northern Lehigh County, almost bordering Carbon County. What are some of the, just out of curiosity, what are some of the things that's important to you? Is it businesses in the area, or is it community or safety? What are some what makes Slatington tick?
Yeah, some people would say that I'm committed to businesses being on Main Street, but that isn't, that's just the start of revitalization efforts. I really am committed to broader revitalization, not just on Main Street, but elsewhere in the community. And so that is really one of my main initiatives being on council, is to really make some revitalization happen. The other thing is, most people up in this area anyway are aware of our budget issues right now. And I suspect that, many municipalities go through periods of time where they struggle with budget issues.
Sure.
And so we're in that moment right now where we struggle with that. And so the other thing that I'm really committed to is for us, really getting on a straight and narrow path as far as our finances are concerned, so that we can afford to do some of these revitalization things.
That's fantastic. So do you see this as a stepping stone to future political aspirations? I asked that question to Nicholas Imbesi, and he kind of chuckled at first, but then came right out and said that he'd like to someday be governor. So is that something that you want to see eventually in your political career, or is town politics where you like being?
I enjoy town politics because, again, I enjoy making a difference.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say, in the most humble terms as possible, I have a lot of support. So
Good.
If that support base ends up, really creating an opening for me to move further and, be able to make an even bigger difference, then I would certainly pursue that.
Great.
But as for now, I'm going to stay focused on the local politics,
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to accomplish some things here. And then, again, if something opens up in the future, I would certainly be open to that opportunity.
Did you, one final question that I'm just curious of asking you, Jason, did you run into any obstacles along the way? Nick was very frank in sharing that even with small town politics, sometimes there was a little bit of, dirty campaigning that he had to fight through with opponents. Did you run into anything like that, or was it a fairly smooth ride?
I don't want to say it was a fairly smooth ride, because I don't believe any campaign is a fairly smooth ride.
Right.
I do believe there were some people out there not necessarily saying negative things about me or the team, but there were some moments where I was a little concerned that they may not have always been completely truthful in the things they were saying about themselves.
Yeah.
And so you gotta watch that. However, I also do feel that the community, we have had some things in this campaign that have been overwhelmingly supportive. One of those things is, typically a local election like this in Slatington anyway is not always the best turnout on an off-presidential election year. And we had, an overwhelming amount of people coming out in the primaries. We ran a very successful multi-candidate write-in campaign in the primary. We were, very successful at that, which is not always the easiest thing to do. And then we had, all the same people that came out and overwhelmingly supported us in the primary were right back out at the polls in the general election to make sure that they saw it through. So we had some, we couldn't have asked for more support than we got in this election. We were all very happy.
That's fantastic. And one more question. I know I said my last one was my last question, but
no, not at all.
I lied. What kind of what kind of words of wisdom would you have for somebody who wants to potentially toy with the idea of getting into politics, but maybe they don't think they have what it takes?
I would say two things.
Okay.
Number one, go to council meetings.
Right.
There are many, many times that when I was appointed back in April, I felt so comfortable going up there because I had already been going to council meetings. I don't believe I missed, many. In a year and a half since I bought the diner and was committed to revitalizing and getting involved with local community leaders, I was going to council meetings for a year and a half before I even was appointed. So I was very familiar with the issues. I was very familiar with people on council. I was very familiar with different personalities of community leaders and who wanted to be talked to about, different topics, who not to talk to about certain topics. You learn all that.
Right.
And so it was really great to be able to step in there fully confident that I sort of had a grasp on things.
Right.
So the first thing is, if you're thinking about getting involved, I would recommend that a person go to borough council meetings and, borough or township, any kind of local township meetings, and just get a feel for how things are working.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing is, just feel confident that, in local politics, there's not always a lot of experience. Not everyone has a public administration degree. In fact, most local politicians do not.
Right.
So maybe if, I just went to a seminar put on by the Pennsylvania Association of Boroughs on budgeting.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're interested in that kind of stuff, there are plenty of, classes and seminars and things like that out there for people who are not necessarily experienced in the ways of public administration.
Gotcha.
So, just research and do some learning, and those are the two things that I would recommend.
Well, that's some fantastic advice there, Jason. I want to thank you so much for talking to me. I know you're a busy man, businessman, politician, you name it, you do it all. So congratulations once again, and we're going to look to have you on the air for future things. I was just talking with our student president this year a little while ago, and he thinks you'd be a great guest on Kutztown Live, which is our community interest talk show as well. But I wanted to get you on today since it was fresh off the big news yesterday, and congratulate you and talk to you a little bit. So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I always appreciate what you guys do over at KUR. I was really appreciative to be a part of that back when I was at Kutztown, and I would love to be a guest on any future shows. I have a lot to say. I have some some ideas that always I like to throw out there and brainstorm around. So it's fun stuff.
Good stuff. Thank you so much, Jason. You have a great afternoon.
You as well, Mike. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye. All right. Well, there you have it, folks. That was Jason Ruff, who just won from Slatington Borough Council, and fantastic, wonderful former member of KUR, as was Nick Imbesi, a former KU alum. Both have won seats yesterday in local council areas, Nick with West Reading and Jason with Slatington, and that a very inspiring conversation with both of those gentlemen, because it's two ordinary guys that have gotten into local politics, and both have aspirations to take it even further if the road takes them there. So there you have it, folks. Let that be an inspiration to you. Instead of maybe complaining about how things are going in your town or coming up with all these ideas but never doing anything about it, just go to a couple council meetings. I got to say, it's been very eye-opening for me doing the same thing. Besides being manager of the radio station here at KUR in the evenings, I moonlight a little bit as a freelance journalist for a local newspaper where I live, so I cover local council meetings all the time, and I really enjoy it. It's just amazing to see the mechanics of your local politics, and that's the stuff that actually affects you. We all get excited about the big the big races like the presidential races and the gubernatorial races, but it's the local stuff that really affects you on a local level. So thank you so much to Jason, and thank you so much to Nick. Well, that just about does it. Thank you so much to everybody for listening. This has been a special edition of the Filibuster with Mike Regs sitting in tonight for Justin Schweitzer, who's a little bit under the weather. Justin will be back again next week here on this fine radio station. Once again, thank you so much for listening, and join us again next week.